It's time for today's Face-Off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-Off on Fox Soul starts right now. Houston Congresswoman and mayoral candidate Sheila Jackson Lee is in the middle of controversy, including her current opponent. Here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Gwinnell, Houston area longtime Congresswoman and current mayoral candidate Sheila Jackson Lee has been in the news, national news, for a number of reasons. The first being, and the loudest story, is a 2013 audio that was released by her opponent John Whitmire, or someone adjacent to him, that has her using horrifying language directed at her staff. She has long had a reputation for being abusive to her staff. We have the county judge, the administrator for Harris County, which is the county that Houston largely sits in, has taken her side and talked about her transparency and an apology. It all seems very false to me. This is a woman who was forced to resign a leadership position from the Congressional Black Caucus after she was sued by a young African-American woman who alleged that she was sexually assaulted as an intern at DC, and then alleged that Sheila Jackson Lee fired her in retaliation for her pursuing that claim. I think just listening to that language, which of course we can't play here because there's a lot of horrifying expletives directed at people that were just trying to help her, I think it's horrible. Now, I do think that she has weaponized the argument that, and be clear, quite honestly, plenty of racists and misogynists will attack a strong black woman for being a strong woman. And I want to be very careful because that is how Sheila Jackson Lee's camp has pushed back at this criticism for decades. I am not critical of her because she is a strong black woman. I think everyone that's honest, and especially the African Americans that worked for her and the African American woman targeted by her, they've suffered not from a strong black woman, but from a person, an individual, that is disconcerted with the feelings of those around her and sounds like an awful bully.
Sheila Jackson Lee, our congresswoman here in Texas, has been in the Congressional House for 3 decades now. And this is the first time that we've heard about such a recording. I did listen to it. It was harsh. It was to the point. She was angry. And I agree.
About what? What was she angry about?
I didn't cut you off. Let me finish. But I agree she should not have spoken the way that she did to that particular employee of her office. But you could tell from that recording she's very passionate about having things done correctly in the office, and you could tell she was angry from that conversation that they had done this continuously to mess up her agenda and not do things according to her wishes and had things running not correctly in her office. I was further upset to see that this brother who released this waited until she runs for mayor of the city of Houston, then offers, from what I've been told, to sell the recording to John Whitmire and his campaign, and they bought the recording and then released it to use it against her. To that black brother who she gave a job, you didn't use that audio to file a lawsuit when it happened. You didn't use that lawsuit and take it to the Texas Workforce Commission and claim that you would be mistreated. You didn't use that particular recording to go any further than what you did when you recorded it, but you waited till you had the opportunity to sell it to a white guy running for mayor to sabotage and destroy your sister's campaign. I say to that brother, you pathetic, you weak, and you got no backbone, because you should have did something in 2013 when it happened. Now, Mr. Whitmire, what has he done for black people? He's a Democrat, but he helped build the Texas TDC justice system in Texas and strengthened it to send tens of thousands of young black and brown men to prison. Ask the number of black and brown parents in Texas who've reached out to his office for help as the chairman of the Prison Board Commission in Texas and see what he responded, see what he did. He ain't done nothing for black and brown people that's going to prison, and yet he sits as chairman of that board for how many years? So if we're going to critique Sheila Jackson Lee, let's be honest about his record also.
That's some fantastic whataboutism, right? I don't know what John Whitmire's race or the race of the person that released it has to do with anything. Of course, you frame it as a racial issue, as smoke and mirrors, to avoid the fact that this is her being awful, right? And you say this is the first time it's been released. She was repeatedly voted the meanest congressperson in Washington by the staffers. She has a long reputation of being horrible. But what you really avoided, masterfully, I'll give you that, Quanell, is this fact that she was forced out of her leadership position because she allegedly fired a rape victim for making an outcry and filing a lawsuit.
That's the second time you made that allegation.
Oh, well,
she did not fire her because of that. In fact, she encouraged that young woman to file that complaint, but that young woman had other issues that caused her to be terminated from Sheila's office.
Well, that's
now,
convenient.
You say she was censured by the United States Congress as being the meanest congresswoman or congressperson.
She was voted by staffers.
Voted by staffers. Okay, let me tell you something. You mean to tell me she's more mean than Newt Gingrich? She's more meaner than Tom DeLay was, the criminal who was committing crimes in Congress. She's more mean than some of these guys who were charged with sexually offending young people and raping young girls in Congress. She's more meaner than the crooks who've been indicted in Congress and put on trial. She's more meaner than them. No, they don't like an outspoken black woman who got a backbone and stands up.
Fantastic job throwing more whataboutism in this to avoid talking about the reality that this audio is disconcerting. This audio suggests someone who shouldn't be in a management position of the 4th largest city in the United States. This audio suggests that she was dictatorial. She was a tyrant, right? And of course, if you drive over, and we can because we're here in Houston.
A tyrant working under Donald Trump in the White House. A tyrant working under George Bush Jr. in the White House. She's the tyrant.
Well, W was known for being very affable and nice. I would agree with your comments about Trump. But at the end of the day, this is just you misdirecting because you can't get around it. And you making stuff up. This young lady,
making up these facts. I'm giving you the raw, unadulterated truth.
The truth
about the United States Congress and politics.
If it was a white congressperson sued for terminating a staffer for making a rape outcry, you would be condemning this person.
No, I would not.
And the only reason,
I would not.
You've done it in the past.
Let me tell you why I wouldn't.
The only reason
because
Donald Trump was
accused of sexually assaulting women.
Complexion.
Donald Trump was accused of sexually assaulting women, and all the Republicans, male and female, stood behind him in Congress and stood with him. And they still standing with him right now.
What are you
and they're
talking
still standing
about?
with him right now.
Liz
and
Cheney,
the Republican voters still stood behind him.
Sacrificed her career standing up to Donald Trump. I have
gotten, well, damn sure wasn't because of black people.
I have most certainly gotten.
And poor people in America.
It's for America.
She's
apparently.
A rich white Republican
more than
who don't care about poor people in America.
Threats for criticizing
Keep
Donald
running,
Trump.
Sister Sheila. We hope you win.
But the whole thing is, the end of the day, you haven't talked about the subject at all.
Oh, I gave facts.
Because you don't care.
Because I gave
facts. And you
facts.
don't care because she's an African-American woman, and your position would be completely different if it was a white woman.
She's a black woman with more testicular fortitude than a post-snitch who worked in the office.
Up next, did Shaun King help in the Israel-Hamas war? In round 2, BLM activist Shaun King is accused of lying about helping free American hostages in Gaza. Here's Quanell X.
So there have been Israeli hostages, Charles, released here lately, and 2 released particularly were the Renan family. And Brother Shaun King gave out a public tweet on his via social media page stating he worked tirelessly behind the scenes with others who normally don't ever work together but came together to help secure these release of these 2 particular hostages. Then the Renan family comes out and condemns him and calls him a liar, and comes out and says they have nothing to do with him and they don't believe nor support anything this quote-unquote man stands for. Then we learn that the son of the family was absolutely in contact with Shaun King, absolutely requesting Mr. King's help, absolutely asking Shaun King to see what he could do to assist. Shaun King honors that man's request, fights for his sister. Then the Renan family finds out that the young man was talking to him, and they release a statement saying, well, yes, it's true. A member of our family did reach out to him and spoke to him. We have nothing further to say. But you did not rescind calling that man a liar. You did not rescind critiquing and condemning that man's character. You did not rescind the attack you put on him publicly. Why did not you apologize and say we were wrong? Yes, the family did reach out to him, and yes, we now know he worked with others to secure the release of hostages. No, these white folks tried to slap the man in the face, and when the truth came out, now they ain't got nothing to say.
Well, I love how you threw in white folks at the end of it, right? And let's continue talking about white people. Let's talk about Shaun King. Shaun King has a long history of lying about everything from his racial history to a number of other things, right? It's not that Shaun was at all involved. Let's go over the comment, because it is, when you come with this, you side with Shaun King for one reason. We know that reason. Shaun wrote, as I said last week, Natalie and her family have been supporters of mine and protested police violence in America alongside us. An absolute lie, right? Natalie made it clear she's never known or done anything or had any interaction with Shaun King. This is Shaun King lying. He continues, I am also thankful for the Qatari government for helping to negotiate this. Dozens of us worked frantically behind the scenes to help make this possible. Here's the thing. While he did establish that there was some communication between one person, a son, who the family said, we didn't have any idea he was talking to them, that's the only thing Shaun King has established, right? He recorded all those calls, screenshot all that stuff.
And that was a wise thing to do.
What he hasn't done is he hasn't proven that he made any real effort, substantive effort, accomplished anything to help these people get released. This is another example of Shaun grabbing someone else's spotlight and taking credit to do what? To race bait, to raise money for Shaun, right? The investigation of Shaun King's finances, a couple of years ago, had some stark and interesting results. I'm always shocked by activists who make activism their well-paying profession, as opposed to fighting for justice, right? Because typically activism, like when I engage in activism, is designed to do something that you're giving. It's not a money-making enterprise. But really, when you take money as donations, and then all of a sudden it ends up being paid for stuff, that is far more disconcerting. Now, I don't know if Shaun King is actually African American, biracial, or white. I don't know what his race is. I don't know why he spun so many fables in most of his life. But your characterization of this as Shaun King telling the truth about something, and then these evil white people didn't apologize. The truth is he grabbed a spotlight that wasn't his because he had a Twitter conversation or a text conversation with one person and has no evidence he accomplished anything. And this is him just trying to get suckers to send him some more money so he can buy another damn car.
So, Charles, if this gentleman, and he has proof that he was working with the Palestinians behind the scenes to secure those release. In fact, he has even additional proof where Palestinians and the Palestinian government put him in direct contact with some of those who have direct connections to Hamas. That's true. Shaun King has been a long-time advocate for Palestinian rights, so he has those relationships. Now, Shaun King.
Wait, hold on.
Let me finish.
Shaun King's been a long-time supporter of terror.
Let me answer it. But now, when you talk about activists, one thing about a real legit activist, that activist, he or she can never be on a payroll of white people. No black activist can be a freedom fighter for black people and take financial contributions from the very enemy that we're trying to get free from. It takes the resources of our own people to support their freedom fighters and their activists
all
to be free.
All white people are your enemy?
I did not say that.
That's exactly what you said.
The very people we're trying to get free from, and the very racist white people in this country who don't want to see the rise of black people. They have to not finance black leadership.
Married to a white woman who had a job and contributed to that household. Should that black man take that money to contribute to the household?
We're not talking about that, Sean.
Oh, no, we're not talking about that. We're all the enemy.
Charles,
because you know why we're the enemy? We're the enemy because these three cameras right here. We're the enemy because the cameras
had to be financed. Watch on Washington.
Okay.
By white people.
Okay.
The NAACP was financially founded by 3 white women. The Urban League was financially founded by 3 white women.
Okay.
But also in their charter, let me finish. In their charter, they wrote in the charter of both organizations that they were never to get involved with economic segregation or apartheid in America or in South Africa. So why in the hell would 3 white people found 2 black organizations and say never fight against economic apartheid or economic segregation? Because they know the real fight in America is economic independence and economic freedom. And that's why black activists, if they're really going to be free, they have to be maintained and financed by their own people.
I get you like to talk about stuff that happened 100 years ago. I get that you like to talk about white people on these cameras very differently than you think about white people off camera. But the truth is, white people aren't your enemy. Are some of them? Yes, because there are some bad white people. Hey, guess what? There are also some bad black people, and there are some bad biracial people, which is what I think Shaun King is. And Shaun King is what he uses race baiting and demonizing people to raise money for himself, not to fix a problem. You want to talk about activists? Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is an activist
and he
that took his money
he made
and
money
did great things.
He took money for speeches.
No.
Colin Kaepernick took money for speeches.
And he stewarded it
and Colin
to
Kaepernick
his community.
is still ridiculed and vilified and whiteballed to this day. I don't say blackball. He was whiteballed to this day.
Up next, fighting for free speech. The man who's doing it all and raising a lot of red flags about it. In today's main event, the Nation of Islam leader is fighting for his First Amendment rights. Here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Quanell, in a questionable timing and an almost absurd allegation from a legal and constitutional law scholar perspective, the head of your religion, Minister Louis Farrakhan, has filed a $5 billion lawsuit against the Jewish organization, the Anti-Defamation League, suggesting that they are alleging that they are interfering with his First Amendment rights, and suggesting that the position that he is a longtime anti-Semite, which I would agree with, was defamation, and they owe him $5 billion. Now, my problem with the allegation about the First Amendment, right, is that the free speech clause of the First Amendment only limits governmental restraint of speech, right? And when it applies to private organizations, it's only when there is some quasi-public issue here, which I don't see anywhere in the lawsuit. It seems like his claim is because they call him an anti-Semite and label him an anti-Semite, despite all of his decades of pretty horrifying anti-Semitic rhetoric, to the point of calling Jews satanic, to the point of suggesting that Jews control all the access to opportunity in this world, to the point of suggesting that you must have anal sex with Jews to make it in Hollywood, to the point of arguing that Jews were the ones running plantations in the Deep South during slavery, which of course Jews weren't welcome in the Deep South either, so it's a little bit weird. But and obviously famously he claimed he wasn't anti-Semite, he's anti-termite, and then claimed, of course, he wasn't referring to Jewish people as bugs. And of course he was. I don't know why Minister Farrakhan has had this long, passionate disdain for Jewish people, but his criticisms echo those of Adolf Hitler, right? And it's horrifying. But his lawsuit doesn't make any damn sense, and I don't think it'll go anywhere. But I'd love to hear your perspective.
And that's exactly what I want you to do, to hear it and not cut me off, because I listened to everything you had to say.
Okay.
Now let me educate you.
Please do.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is challenging the ADL on the fabrication that's put out there, making it truth that he is an anti-Semite. An unchallenged lie resembles the truth. He wants to challenge that organization, the ADL, in court to make them prove that he is truly an anti-Semite. He never said you had to have anal sex with Jewish people to make it in Hollywood. He didn't say that. He said too many Jews in leadership who work in Hollywood have been involved in some nefarious sexual activity to give access to those accessing Hollywood. And he didn't just say it. There's other popular Hollywood actors who've also said it. He never said that they were termites. He said, I'm not anti-Semite, I'm anti-termite. He used the analogy termite means he's anti-anyone that eats at the very foundation of somebody's home, meaning our community eat from it but don't really give back. So he didn't say just them, he meant any race of people. He said it about Arabs, and he's Muslim. He said it about Asians. He said also about those who are black, who are termites within our community, who feed from the people and never give back. Why is it when Minister Farrakhan critiques and criticizes black people, Arab people, Asian people, Hispanic, he's never called anti that? But if he gives a constructive, truthful critique and criticism of Israel or Jewish leaders, all of a sudden he's anti-Semite. Now let's look at those who've been called that like him. Oprah Winfrey was called anti-Semite. The great Nelson Mandela also was labeled an anti-Semite. Mother Teresa was labeled an anti-Semite. There's great Hollywood actors and personalities in this country who was called that and were never that. President Ford was called anti-Semite. Even John F. Kennedy was called anti-Semite. There's been some very prestigious Americans who've been labeled with that terrible definition, that label that has defined them as being something that they're not. He says, let's go to court and let's prove what you say. they have always avoided challenging him and proving what he's saying. Can you say what he's saying is a lie, or you don't like the fact that he's saying it? Take him to court and prove what you say he is, that he is.
Okay, so when Louis Farrakhan said Jews are responsible for all this filth and degenerate behavior that Hollywood is putting out, turn men into women and women into men, that doesn't sound anti-Semitic to you?
He said the movie production house that's owned by a Jewish individual putting out that type of material, that is filth. Because no Jew, wait a minute, there have been movie production houses that put out movies owned by Jewish people who own those movie houses producing films that's anti-Jewish, because no Jew would allow that type of filth to come out in his company, in its name.
Judaism a gutter religion.
That's not what he said.
This is a quote.
That's
when
not
he
what
said
he said.
It's not a Jewish synagogue, it's a satanic synagogue.
And what he was speaking about is what Jesus Christ said.
Okay.
Jesus Christ in John 8:32, when he said, those of you who say you are Jews and you are not, no, you are of your father, the devil, the synagogue of Satan. So at the end of the day, Farrakhan didn't say it first. Christ Jesus, the Messiah, said it first. He quoted scripture.
Okay, so Jesus was an anti-Semite. Jesus the Jew was an anti-Semite.
There are some Jews in Israel right now who say Jesus was an anti-Semite. Look it up.
Okay.
Google it. In fact, some of them went so far to say that Jesus Christ should be boiled in excrement.
You're pushing the table. You calm down.
Sorry.
Calm down.
Because I'm going to whoop your behind with facts today.
You're not whooping anything. And you're not. The fact that you say the BS you're spewing is facts,
and according to Jewish scholars, the slavery issue,
suggesting,
he quoted Jewish scholars who said in their own writings that members of their community were deeply involved in the transatlantic slave trade. He didn't say it. He quoted their scholars in his book, and he said to them, if they would come forth and condemn their own scholars as liars, he would repudiate the book and throw it away, because he didn't want his name associated with liars. So they refused to condemn their own scholars who said they was involved in slavery. And that's why Farrakhan kept the book.
A lot of plantations, right? When he just pulled that out of the ether, right?
According to Jewish scholars, they did.
Okay. You know,
do your research.
You need to do your research, right?
He asked them to condemn the scholars,
it is very
and he would condemn the book.
easy to find a lengthy list, pages and pages of horrible things Farrakhan has said in public, in speeches, on radio, on television, about Jewish people, right? And all you could do is sit here and parse and say, oh, this person, that person, this other person was accused of being anti-Semitic, instead of
how easy the lie is given and put on people.
It's not a lie. He doesn't like Jewish people.
That's
if you're going to be an
overt
anti-Semite, at least have the,
let me borrow your word,
at least have the testicular fortitude to claim it,
let me ask you a question.
Filing a stupid
Why
suit
in 1996?
So how is it a First Amendment?
In 1996,
how is it a First Amendment violation?
A group of Jewish leaders came to Farrakhan's event, Savior's Day, and said he was not an anti-Semite. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to you. It is important that at this critical hour in America, that we all strive to be calculated thinkers. We must be critical thinkers, and let's not rush to believe everything we see on social media or even some mainstream media outlets, because you can be ill-informed, you can be thoroughly misinformed. Let us be a people, all of us, no matter what your race is, thoroughly research the facts, and let us act accordingly. One thing Minister Farrakhan taught me, he said that the best religion in America is not Judaism, it's not Christianity, it's not Islam. He said the best religion in America and around the world is want for others what you want for yourself, and do unto others as you would have done unto you. Mr. King, he did help to release those hostages, those two. And the family was wrong to condemn him, and after they found out that he did help and speak to a family member, they should have apologized to him and said after that, no comment. But they didn't do it. They're racist behinds, let that brother help, condemned him. Then when they found he was wrong, they did not apologize. At the end of the day, it is time that we as the people realize something. America is dying from an eternal rot and an eternal decay. Until we collectively come together in this country, we're all in trouble.
Okay, I'll begin. Quanell mentioned a critical time. Let's talk about a critical time. This is a critical time for the Jewish world, right? And you can strongly disagree with the bombing of Gaza and yet still take issue with the horrifying actions for decades of Islamist extremism directed at the Jewish people, who they want to wipe from the river of the sea, who they actively advocate, Hamas does publicly, for their genocide and eradication, while claiming genocide is being committed to them. And this is the time that Louis Farrakhan decides to file a $5 billion lawsuit attacking an organization. We've seen, I think London saw a 1,350% increase in hate crimes directed at Jewish people after the terror attack. We saw these celebrations. It's absolutely insane. And at some point, we need to say, hey, you have a history of being an anti-Semitic, saying horrible things, calling Jews satanic, calling them the worst things in the world, right? And if you're going to have all this hatred in your heart, just own it. It's like the covert racist. Wouldn't you rather deal with an overt racist? And let's talk about my fellow white guy, Shaun King. Shaun King uses the spotlight and falsity to raise money for Shaun King. That's what he does, right? And while it does seem like there was some connect, it doesn't seem like he did anything. Stop being suckered by the people looking to sucker you.